Hello and welcome back to the show. Today I have a very special guest, Rachel Tidy. She is an accredited exercise physiologist with a special interest and passion for working within the mental health space. This is a very, very exciting conversation with a lot of eye-opening information, in particular around what exercise physiologists can do within this space. So I know there's a lot of you out there who will really find this conversation quite valuable. I would like to warn you that there are conversations around mental health and trauma. So if that is something that you personally find is not comfortable for you, this we do talk about that. So I'd like to let you know early before we get stuck into it. But otherwise, I'm really excited to share this. Let's get stuck into it. Hello, Rachel. It is
Hi.
so lovely to have you on the show today. I'm really, really pumped to talk about your work today. So thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, I think.
I think you're not quite sure whether you're excited about this or
Yeah.
not. But it's really, I can't wait to share what you have to say. So let's start off with a little bit of an introduction about yourself,
Mhm.
and mostly let's talk about what you currently do, because this is quite interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess I identify as an exercise physiologist and have grown into a mental health clinician and specialize in mental health in probably the acute or subacute kind of setting. So I work in inpatient programs and yeah, my road here to this point has been interesting. This is my second career. Started out doing
Oh, is
something,
it?
yeah, I
Oh, I
started out
didn't
doing
know
something
that.
very different. Actually trained as a chemist.
Oh, I did not know that about you.
Yeah, so yeah, trained as a environmental chemist and kind of worked in that field for a long time. So always interested in kind of problem solving. And then, yeah, it came about, decided that I wanted to work with people. Um, and yeah, it's quite an interesting story. I really early on in my chemistry degree came across a unit of exercise physiology.
Oh,
And at the time, I was looking for things to kind of pick up to fill that degree. And took on this course of exercise physiology. Absolutely loved it. It was early 2000s. Um, and went and actually spoke to the head of the unit at the time, who I guess some of your listeners might know, Nigel Steptoe, really beautiful individual who's not with us anymore, and spoke to him and just said, "This is amazing. It's physics and it's anatomy and it's humans and it's movement and this is fab. What are the career options?"
yeah, wow.
And he kind of said at the time, "Well, it's research." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I don't think that's where I want to go." So kind of continued on chemistry, did that for maybe 7, 8 years. 7 year itch, as they say.
Also, like in the actual work, 7 years working in the industry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then yeah,
What
just
did
kind
you
of
actually do, like in the industry?
in environmental
Chemistry.
chemistry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So working with machines, instruments that detected environmental pollutants in
Oh,
soils,
okay.
in waters, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, that is like I'm like so shocked right now because I was like so prepared for this interview and then you just typed that in straight away. Like,
Yeah, I probably should have given you some warning on that one. Um,
yeah, it's interesting. It's good. I like it.
But I think the thing about it, like I still think that my job today is not that dissimilar from
Mm.
that really kind of analytical, looking at things, big picture, looking at things small picture, and really getting a sense of like what's going on.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, so when I kind of ran out of options in the chemistry world, took myself back to uni, and at that point, it had exercise physiology had like just ticked over into an allied health profession. So yeah, jumped straight back into it, and yeah, finished my master's towards uh, 2017.
Yeah, wow. That's so cool. So pre that, it wasn't really like was it actually just research when like you asked that or was it just he didn't really know?
Yeah, I think at that time, particularly in Australia. The jobs, if you've kind of followed through physiology, human physiology, exercise physiology, my understanding, at least based off that one conversation, was that yeah, the career prospects were research. Um,
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I didn't know. I
yeah.
mean, haven't really um thought about it, from that how long that time when it like
Mm,
it's I guess it's where it's come from in a sense of the industry. But that's
yeah.
exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah, so
Um,
and unfortunately, I actually got the opportunity to see Nigel again, and I don't think he remembered who I was, but it was nice to kind of have that connection again with him and say, look, the impression you left at Monash University, back in the day, has kind of fueled this change of career for me.
Yeah.
So that
Isn't
was
that
really cool.
so that's really cool when you like he was probably like, sorry, who? Who are you?
Yeah.
And he's had such a profound impact on your career.
And and sometimes that's just how it goes. We have these fleeting interactions with people, and
Yeah.
sometimes they leave an impression, yeah. So um I guess my role now is kind of, I don't know, it sounds cyclical, but sometimes now I'm that fleeting interaction with my clients. And I
Yeah.
hope that the short-term therapy work that I can do with them in the inpatient setting um, maybe lingers around or resonates, and then they can take that to their other therapeutic spaces.
Oh, yeah, cool. I want to dive a little bit more into that in a little bit, exactly what you're doing, because I
Yeah.
think we've spoken about this before in previous conversations about the variety, like what roles we can actually play in healthcare that's not traditional in
Mm,
clinic or in a physio clinic or something like that. But I would like to talk a little bit more about maybe the journey from finishing uni into what you're doing now and what that's looked like. I think,
mm,
especially when we talk about the mental health side of our scope, how we get to this type of work is a
yeah.
little bit not many people really know that pathway or that journey. So I'd love to hear more about that journey from you.
Mm. Um, Yeah, it kind of feels like, there were definitely people ahead of me, and some really important people that have sort of mentored me or that I've held in, really high regard, in Victoria, working in the mental health space. But I was always interested, in, I guess, the human side of what we do. Um, and I don't want to disrespect anyone in our space, but the idea of teaching squats or coaching squats for the rest of my career didn't really fill me with a lot of excitement. What filled me with excitement was working with the individual, getting
Mm,
to understand their likes and dislikes, and understanding their story, and then working with them through movement in a way that supports them. Um, so all through my university, I was looking, I was more interested in, I think, the complex illnesses, invisible illnesses. Um, I would always pick research topics, or, when we had a case study to pick, I'd always pick the systemic lupus, or I'd pick the chronic pain cases. I was
mm,
just more drawn to that direction. Um, and approached my university and said, do you have a mental health placement? And they looked at me with a confused look in their eye and went, no. Um, but if you can find one, we'll back you. Which was a huge kind of vote of confidence. So I ended up sourcing my own mental health placement, which was with the youth service at Headspace.
Oh, cool.
So I got a little bit of exposure there. And then that just kind of reaffirmed, like, yep, this is, the area that there's so much research in. Um,
Mm.
there was so much research coming out at the time, and there's some amazing people doing some just fantastic research into this space. And I think not being that interested in kind of conducting the research, I was like, okay, but I can do the doing.
Yeah, you give me the research and I'll do the rest.
Yeah, like I can do the doing. Because there kind of felt like there was a bit of a gap there.
Mm,
That, clearly needs support. Telling someone to just go for a walk is not a therapeutic engagement.
no. I mean, for some it might be, but
Yeah, but
not
I think
really.
in a mental health space, these like our clients, they're struggling with mental health. They're not, they know that engaging in movement or engaging, going for a walk might be therapeutic. There's there's clearly more barriers there, because it's such a hard activity to engage with when
Mm,
mental health is declining.
yeah, yeah, I agree with you there. I
Yeah.
don't have a lot of experience in the mental health space aside from like history of issues, really. But even just that minor um, part of my client's journey is
Mhm.
still challenging for them. So I can only imagine what it would be like when it's even more chronic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you did your placement, and then what happened
Yeah.
like after you finished uni? Where did you go?
So I think as is typical of all kind of graduate exercise physiologists, I ended up working like 4 or 5 jobs in the same week.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I think, a lot of your listeners can probably really relate to that. But I was fortunate enough to, one of my first jobs was in an inpatient mental health setting.
Oh wow, cool.
Um, Hired, yeah, pretty much straight out of uni. I think being mature age as a graduate was really supportive for that. And I had a really lovely grade two kind of EP that I worked alongside. And kind of from there, yeah, started, I think I started with 8 hours a week.
Right.
Um, and yeah, and then sort of that started there, started in a private practice with a musculoskeletal focus, which was such a strong foundation and grounding that, has really supported me so well. And Sarah, who I know that
Oh,
um,
was that the job? That was you
yeah,
working, Sarah?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, and for her to believe in me was huge for me. Um,
Just quickly on the inpatient job that you had, the first one, was that actually advertised as an EP role?
it was.
Yeah, wow.
Um,
I'm
so
just surprised that like that was such a thing already. Like,
yeah, so the construct of that environment was quite a small unit.
mhm.
The general manager of that unit was quite supportive of movement-based therapies. So Patrick, who I worked alongside, he was there. He started, similar to me, started on 8 hours a week, built that up into a 4 day a week role,
Mhm.
and then was advocating for more support. So, they offered him, oh, we can get an AHA. And his sort of response to that was like, well, that's really not um, all that helpful. And they kind of negotiated. And, I think mental health is a grade two role. It can be grade one if it's really well supported.
Yeah,
But
okay.
entry, yeah, the grade one is a really difficult role to sit in. And I wouldn't be surprised, I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few practitioners, um, that have burnt out in a grade one,
Mm.
because of I guess, the challenges
Yeah,
of
can
the
you please
work.
explain grade one, grade two, right? Like, because that's a like a
Yeah,
government
sorry,
type scaling.
that's a very
I don't really
hospital.
know a lot about this because
No,
I'm like
no.
private practice.
Um, Sorry, that's very hospital language.
It is. It is.
So, allied health professionals, I think across the board in hospital settings, grade one is sort of your grad, and you might sit at a grade one level for 5 years.
Oh, five
Um,
years. Wow.
I think that's the band, or at least perhaps depends on your EBA and your organization. Um, and then, so grade two would be considered with specialist knowledge.
Ah, yes. Okay.
So specialist knowledge and then grade and perhaps the capacity to supervise students or supervise allied health assistants. And then moving up to grade 3 would be, service design, um, building services. Uh, what else would sit at a grade 3 role? Supervising grade 2s, and that sort of stuff. Yeah, so I guess, yeah, grade 2 would be independent,
Yeah, okay.
completely in that role. And then, yeah, grade 3 would be sort of that more service design and, um, yeah.
Yeah, I've actually seen some, like I'm always browsing to see what our industry is like. And I'm always actually, I do a lot of like searching for women's health company or jobs that I can connect with,
Yeah,
just to see what's out there. And I always see these grades and I'm just like, I don't really know what that even means.
there you go.
And I've had to Google it a couple of times. And
Yeah,
I can sort of see the hierarchy, but I think you don't really understand what it is, and if you unless you're in that industry already,
for
um,
sure.
and especially if you've come out of private practice. I know there's people that have probably, they might be actually like grade 3 or higher, but they're not really even sure like if they fit into that model because they've done work that's so different. But
Mm.
that's a really good explanation for those who have no idea what that is, like me. Okay, so carry on. You've done that role. You've worked at the in the Musk background.
Yeah. Um, and then I had the, sort of fortunate through a few kind of different channels, was kind of invited to join Cabrini, which I've been there since August 2021.
Yep.
Um,
This is your current job.
this is my current role, my only job. So
One
I
job?
feel like a big adult. I have one job, which is enough to, put food on the table, which is super exciting. And so, yeah, I was invited to join Cabrini. They were opening a brand new unit, the first of its kind in Australia. And I think since then, there's been a few services that have followed. What made it unique was that it was a solely women's mental health unit, where, you know, all services were delivered from a trauma-informed manner or in a trauma-informed way.
That is so
Um,
cool.
so yeah, it's been growing that service, adapting what I do within that space as the service as a whole finds its identity.
Mm.
Um, and so at the moment, yeah, things are stable and it's a really, we have an amazing team of people that I work with. I'm still the only EP in the village, but yeah, a long, feels like a long journey. But I'm immensely proud of what we've kind of built in this space. And the people that I work with is just, yeah, makes the work that can be challenging at times really fulfilling. And yeah.
That's so great to hear. I think having a role or a career that's fulfilling is so important. Um, and people can get lost outside of that, and you just get stuck in your mundane and think like, do I even really like this anymore? And so it's really nice to hear that. Ah, I have so many questions. Now I'm like, all these things are popping in. But I'd love to talk a little bit more about, you said it's a women's health only
Yeah.
service, right? Could you talk a little bit about the type of, like, what you see there, like conditions? Like, are you allowed to talk about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because like for me, mental health, like I would love to dive into it a bit more specific.
Mm, yeah, of course. So other than being, assigned female at birth, identifying as female, or, being kind of having female as your gender, there's very little, I guess, constraint on the clients that we see. I think the only other proviso is that they need to be independent with their activities of daily living, so independent with showering, that sort of
Mm.
stuff. But other than that, we see, a huge broad range of mental health conditions. Um, So I don't know if it's helpful for me to kind of list.
Yeah, can you list some?
How much detail do you want?
Yeah, let's go all in.
Let's go all in.
Yeah.
Um, so we work with anxiety disorders from an experience of anxiety all the way through to generalized anxiety, panic disorders, panic attacks. We see, of course, the other side of the anxiety coin. We see depression, we see major depression. Even it's an uncomfortable term, but it is used across the industry of kind of treatment resistant depression. And then on top of that, I guess what the whole service is designed to support is women with experiences of trauma.
Mhm.
And so that could be PTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder. It could be complex PTSD, so where there might be experiences of trauma over long time frames or um, time frames or experiences of trauma perhaps that wouldn't meet the old school definition,
Mhm.
where we might think about return service. Sorry, the word's just fallen out of my brain. Return servicemen, servicewomen,
Yeah, like
experience,
that stuff, DBA,
yeah,
typically
experiences
see.
of, yeah. Um, I will flag at this point, there's a use of language that is helpful to kind of explain the difference between a PTSD and PTSD and CPTSD.
Hmm.
The use of language I don't particularly resonate with, and I think it can be uncomfortable for some clients. But I think for us as clinicians, it's a way of explaining it in a kind of succinct way.
Hmm.
And it's the idea of big T trauma. So, as in like a capital T. So that might be experiences of war, experiences, and I hope that this isn't distressing for any of your listeners. Um, um, you know, Something like a car accident might be a big T trauma. And then there's this language, and this is the bit that I get uncomfortable with. This is small T trauma.
Mm.
So it might be an instance where a child might feel unsafe. It could be interpersonal trauma that's repetitive. It could be multiple experiences of invalidation. Anything where an individual's sense of safety is compromised.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so a collection of those experiences where your safety feels compromised, you may kind of end up in that CPTSD diagnosis.
Yeah, I agree with you in like the uncomfortableness of it, but I understand its clarity. Like it does make more like you can pop it into a good categories kind of.
Yeah,
It
it
does.
is.
I can see exactly what you mean by that.
Yeah. And I think, more so than any other space, I'm a big believer that language is important.
Mhm.
The words we use, the way we use them are hugely important. More so, I think, in a mental health setting where, it's not about the language that I'm comfortable using, it's about language that my clients are comfortable or not comfortable to use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
Sorry?
Like, how do you know that? Like with each person, is it something that you learn over time? Like you as a clinician just start to understand with the person, or
Actually, that's a great question.
just a
Um,
skill? Like, I don't feel like there's a course in like how to understand your client's language.
Yeah, look, sometimes it's flat out asking,
Yeah, okay.
and getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. Like
Yeah.
like me getting comfortable with someone and saying, what are your preferred pronouns? Like that's a question that I'm asking on a daily basis. How would you like me to um, how would you like me to explain, or how would you like to identify? Do you
Mm,
identify as an anxious person or a person with anxiety?
yeah,
Um,
okay.
so and that's for anxiety, but then we also have we have the trauma-based conditions. We have a lot of we work with a lot of neurodivergent. There's been a change in language there recently, and I'm still wrapping my head around that. um, so neurodivergence. um, so work with a lot of clients with that. We also have OCD, we have agoraphobia, we have PMDD, which is, a relatively new condition that isn't
Mm.
particularly well, or, it's increasing in people's awareness and knowledge, but has only been a diagnosable condition since probably around the time I was at uni.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
so 2014, I think, was added to the diagnostic manual for psychiatric disorders. Um, yeah,
That gives us a pretty good broad understanding of who you're seeing. That's
pretty
quite
much all of the humans with, yeah, and then of course alongside that, in an exercise space, we're dealing with all of the comorbid physical health presentations.
yeah. Okay. I would actually really love to talk about that now because I feel um like what do you actually do in that role? I feel like this is something that so many people would be listening to going, that would be so cool, but I don't really know what it would look like to do a job like that. Could you explain a bit more about that for us?
Yeah. So the service that I'm in is group-based therapy, so which has its own challenges as an exercise physiologist. It means that all of my sessions are group-based.
Mhm.
They are all voluntary attendance in terms like they're encouraged to attend. Our clients are encouraged to attend, but in a trauma-informed service, I'm not going to tell someone that they have to come. Um, so essentially my days consist of running groups, so running movement-based groups. So I tend to do modality based groups. So in that I'll run a yoga group, I'll run a strength training group, I'll run a circuit group, I'll run a boxing group, I'll run a stretch mobility group, yoga, Pilates. So I tend to cluster by modality.
Mhm. So they're
Um,
not condition specific groups though, are they?
Sorry, conditions.
They're not conditioned, like it's not just
No,
condition,
no.
just the modality. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So modality specific. So open to all of the clients that might be on the unit at any point in time.
Okay.
So my in the moment prescription and adaptation is a skill that I have grown
Mm.
because I don't know who's going to show up. And I also don't know as they come into my sessions what perhaps mood state they're in and what adaptations I might need to support them with um, to help them get the most out of the session.
So do you not do any initial consult work with them?
So I get to do a screening.
Okay.
And again, language is important. It's a screening. It's not an assessment.
Yeah, oh, yeah, okay. I would
Um,
agree with you.
Because I get about 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes to get to know my
Wow,
clients.
that's not very long.
And in that, what I'm trying to, the information that I'm trying to glean out of that interaction is more so that individual's relationship with exercise,
Okay.
their relationship with their bodies, their relationship, perhaps the coping mechanisms that they may have been using prior to their admission. Um, any co-occurring or coexisting disordered eating, those sorts of things. So they're the key bits of information. So I want to know, for you, Courtney, I want to know, like, what do you like doing? What do you not like? What don't you like doing?
Mm.
Um, how do you feel about your body? How do you feel about exercise? Have you had prior negative experiences? That's the information that I'm trying to kind of get out of those interactions.
Okay.
Um, and then, what's coming up for them in a physical health space.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know
So
if that really.
and then is that when you do you recommend the group classes? Like which one that would fit their needs?
Yeah. Yeah. So essentially my spiel includes, the lines that all of my groups are available to everyone.
Hmm.
And come with whatever capacity you have. because that can change. There's no expectation about, having done or engaged with that modality before. The movement-based sessions are about an exploration. They're, a space to get curious and to explore. Usually it's around choice. So clients making choice, clients feeling safe
Mhm.
to kind of move their bodies and engage with movement. And for a lot of clients, my focus is around joy and kind of autonomy.
Wow.
So it's it's fine. Yeah, it's not an easy task, and there are things that definitely at times I feel like I don't get all of the information that I actually need.
Mm.
Um, And so, yeah, working with clients, very much on an in the moment kind of focus.
How
Yeah.
big are your groups?
They could be up to 12,
Okay.
um, 13. I've had 15. I also have groups of two.
Yeah.
Um, so it's very dependent. There's a lot of other, I guess, demands of an inpatient stay.
Yeah. Okay.
And my clients or our clients, they're only with us for 14 days.
Wow. I was just about to ask how long are they usually in this program for? Um,
Yeah.
and I think my brain went to like way longer than that. So,
Yeah. I mean, that's our model of care.
okay.
So we're a voluntary service, short stay, and then clients will roll into community programs.
And that is something that is that something that you refer them out to or recommend?
So we have our own, I guess, therapeutic groups that operate in community.
Okay.
Um, so there'll be more psychological therapy based groups. Um, it's a space that I'm yet to kind of spread my wings into, but that's somewhere that I really want to progress to in
Oh,
future.
wow, wow.
So we run kind of trauma processing groups. There's an art therapy group. We run uh, sort of psychological therapy based groups. So cognitive behavioral therapy, acceptance commitment therapy. And we also run some diagnostic specific groups. So we have an ADHD group, and a group that I am involved in is the PMDD group. So
Yeah, wow. That's so cool.
it's a lot of hats.
Yeah, I'm just like, there's only one EB.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So, the group classes that you run,
Mm.
is that a exercise prescription there? Is it targeting health concerns? Is it just a movement and teaching exercise? Like, what's the goal of like, because we come as like the person's goal, we've got to work towards this, we're changing these health markers. Like, what is it for you?
Um, it's sometimes I say to clients like I'm a chameleon, and I am whatever clients need me to
Okay.
to be. So sometimes it's injury rehab. It might
Okay.
be pain management. It might be um, working with postural orthostatic tachycardia. It could be, orthostatic intolerance. So
Mm,
supporting clients to explore ways to manage these kind of health conditions.
okay.
Um, Sometimes I get clients that, are dysregulated and they need a space to express, frustration, anger, irritation in a safe way. And that's, I'm hugely passionate about using boxing
Yeah, okay.
in a really supported way though, not just, there's a pair of gloves, off you go.
Mm,
It's a lot around um, working through that state of arousal, regulation, parasympathetic nervous system, sympathetic
mm,
nervous system. Um, yeah, so sometimes in the screening, I'll talk to someone and they'll say, look, I really struggle with returning to safe exercise, with my disordered eating mindset. How do I uncouple, counting calories, and how do I know if I'm exercising in a way that is healthful, right?
Mm.
That's a question that comes up a lot. Um, I think the stats are somewhere around 80% of disordered eating comes with dysfunctional exercise relationships.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work in that space, and a lot of my clients just don't know. Like a client a couple of weeks back was like, I've never exercised just because. I've
Yeah.
never moved my body just because. It's always been calories. It's always been weight. It's always been body composition change or seeking to look different.
Yeah.
Um, so sometimes it's sort of exploring those concepts, but yeah, it's a drop in the ocean, really. Um,
Mm.
and to be able to follow some of these clients through and work with them longer term would be phenomenal. At the moment, yeah, I get them for 2 weeks and um, yeah.
Hopefully you're that pivot point, right?
Or sometimes sometimes it's a something I say or I give them permission to say no.
Mm.
To give them permission to say, actually, I don't like that. I'm not going to do that. And I go, great, cool. All right, let's find something else that you do
Yeah.
like.
Take that one off the list.
Yeah, let's never do that again. Or at least like it's not important right now. What's important is that you feel safe. And what's important is that you can choose. And I'm here and you can, hopefully I'm transparent and, I'm here to collaborate with you. I always say to my clients, like, I'll never tell you what to do with your body. I'll give you options. It's up
Mm.
to you to choose.
That's so cool.
Um,
I'm like, I need to change my programming. I'm just giving out like exact prescriptions, but I am in the mask rehab, right? It's a very different,
yeah, but it's a different, and
it's such
sometimes
a
I
different approach.
am, yeah, but sometimes you have to be real. Like sometimes I am really like, okay, I want you to move in this way and I want you to think about this and I'm going to use this really specific cue. And then other
Mm.
times I'm like, what do you want to do? You want to dance? All right, let's go. What's your favorite song? Let's have a boogie.
Yeah.
Um,
They've also like they're collaborated with that, right? Like, so they're probably keen on the reps and sets and like strength work today, or
yeah.
that might look like. But in your groups, is it like individualized group or is it like everyone's doing the same thing? I'm like picturing this workout. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not sure what to picture.
it- it's controlled chaos with a lot of clinical reasoning in the background. I think it's probably
I feel like that's such a great definition of that.
someone will look in on one of my groups and just be like, what is going on in there? Because I've got someone doing medicine ball slams and I'm telling them to get angry. And then, I've got someone else who's like in the corner, maybe doing some yoga or like
Together.
sorry?
Like in the same room together. They're just like,
Yeah.
that's so funny.
Yeah. So I guess the other thing that I run that is not modality specific. So when it's modality specific, it's a lot around me, I guess, leading or more like like if you went to a yoga studio, right? So I'm sort of at the front of the room, I have a mat, and I'm sort of guiding people through, giving them lots of choice and variation along the way.
Mhm.
Um, and then, in perhaps the circuit group is probably a good, to actually give some solid information. I feel like I'm just talking in words. Um,
You're doing well.
the circuit group would be like, I might have 12 stations. And at the station is, I always say to clients, like it's a suggestion, right? So it might be a horizontal press or a horizontal push, and there'll be a bench there and there'll be a wall there. And if neither of those options feel comfortable in your body, well, then let's explore something else.
Okay.
Um,
That's cool.
so the screenings that I do with clients give me a lot of information, not enough, but they give me, you know, a lot to kind of, at least know who they are and know what's going on in their bodies, to some level. Um, and then it's sort of moving around that circuit space and saying, oh, Courtney, like, remember you mentioned that frozen shoulder. Okay, here's what we're going to do at this station. This one might feel better in your body today.
Mm.
Let me know. Did that work for you?
Yeah,
Um,
right.
so yeah,
Got a lot to remember.
control chaos with yeah, clinical reasoning floating around there in the back.
Do you have to write notes?
Um, so I keep notes for myself.
Okay.
And again, I think at the moment being the only EP, I've realized, there is a lot of stuff in my head
Mm.
um, that I probably underestimate how much in the moment clinical information I'm keeping in my brain.
Yeah. Like if someone
Um,
had to take over your role tomorrow, it would be so hard.
yeah, and I think that brings with that brings its own challenges, right? And
Mm.
you as a business owner, it's there's that same challenge of
Oh, yeah.
I can't take a day off. When I take a day off, my groups don't run.
Yeah, okay.
If I'm not well, then that's if I'm not well and I'm not at week for a work, not at work for a week, that's 15, 16, 20 clients that don't get to interact with an exercise physiologist or don't get to interact with a movement, with therapeutic movement, I guess.
Yeah, that is definitely a bit of a barrier there, isn't it?
Yeah. Um,
Still so cool.
yeah.
It's wow, I was like not expecting half of that.
Well,
I think
I think I'm only one EP working in one mental health service.
mm,
This is the way that it works in my service. It doesn't mean that it's the way that every other service works,
yeah.
particularly in private. Um, eh, I know that there are some inpatient facilities where, the doctor will refer a client to the exercise physiologist.
Okay.
Whereas I often think it's the clients that don't refer or self-refer. They're the ones where I want to spend more time.
Mm,
They're the ones who perhaps, have a really complex relationship with their body or complex relationship with exercise. Or need a lot of support and confidence building. Um, they're the clients that, yeah.
it lights
Um,
your fire, that doesn't it? Those people. You're like, yes.
I just
Yeah.
feel like they're the ones that, they get overlooked.
Mm,
They're the ones that get told, just go for a walk.
yeah.
Um,
Which
you
is like
know,
the hardest thing for them to do, probably.
yeah, yeah. And I think, and the reason why I love, while there's the challenge of running groups and kind of only delivering movement in group settings, it means that, there's been times where I've had a sub-elite athlete and a first timer in the
Yeah,
same
wow.
space. Um, in the same space, having the same experience of being able to make choice and, you know, feel empowered and yeah. And that's super special when that
Yeah.
happens.
Wow, that's cool. That is really cool. I actually, for anyone listening, I met Rachel at a workshop that I presented at a clinic in Melbourne, and I had a conversation with her about this, like what you did. It was very brief. I did not. I can honestly say now that I didn't really know what you were doing until now. I'm like, oh wow, this is so much more like intensive than I actually kind of think I thought. I'm not quite sure what I thought before this, but very insightful into this, what your work is. And I'm so glad we've had to share this today. I would actually like to talk a little bit about, we did pelvic floor. I feel like
Yeah.
my job's so mundane now. I'm like, we did pelvic floor.
No.
And I taught a little bit about a couple of different topics, but one of them was mostly around tension and tightness. And most people will know that there is a really big, I guess, crossover in like the mental health and even trauma based work and pelvic pain and pelvic floor tension issues.
Mm.
I'd love to know, because we spent a bit of time on this and I know you already had some background knowledge in it, but did you take anything away from that workshop and implement it within the work, or did you see any differences? Or I'd love to know what how you've integrated pelvic health with it.
Yeah, definitely. I think the practical component of what you presented at that PD session was, you know, And I think really reaffirming of like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, yeah, I wouldn't have classified myself particularly as a pelvic floor specialist, or I wouldn't have necessarily said that I'm the expert at that, and and I'm definitely still not an expert. Um, but the things that I took away from that straight away were that my hunch, I guess, about what was going on in that space for a lot of my clients was real.
Mm.
The tension, the tightness, sometimes that's as prescribed, or no, sorry, not prescribed. Sometimes that's a diagnosed, so like a hypertonia, or we
Oh,
might
yeah.
actually see, I see a lot of endometriosis, I see a lot of adenomyosis, I see a lot of chronic pelvic pain. Um, but then also, we see a lot of birth trauma and those sorts of
Mm.
experiences as well. And I think, the things that I took away and just immediately enacted was like, okay, all right, let's, continue what we're doing around finding safety, but bring the pelvic floor into it. And when I'm doing breath work, it's the whole abdominal system and the confidence that you imparted um, to really, you know, be forward talking
Yeah,
about
cool.
pelvic floor. And even now, when I work with clients with back pain, it's like, really early on in that conversation, I'm bridging and letting clients know, that your pelvic floor is likely to be playing a role here. And is there anything that I might need to know?
Are they
Or
open to it?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, cool. I get
yeah.
excited about I'm excited about the pelvic floor stuff, but
Yeah.
it's really
And
cool.
with more hours in my day, I want to, develop and run like a specific pelvic floor health group, you know.
Oh yeah, that would
Um,
be so cool.
so, where there's education around, pelvic floor and the role of pelvic floor, and then, that sort of education and experimental. Um, yeah, and then all of the work in perimenopause, pelvic floor changes as well. So, um, yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot that I want to do.
Oh, I'm so glad. I was when I delivered PD, you never really know like when someone, you go and then you're like, okay, good luck. And you just don't really know how it unfolds in each person's circumstance and their
Mm,
work environment, which
yeah.
I think is like the coolest part about what we do is I'm probably going to take things from this conversation and think about how I would implement this in some of my clients who do present with mental health concerns, where I think, wow, maybe I actually do need to give more choice in some of these exercise prescriptions around pelvic
Yeah, and I
rehabilitation.
think, in the crossover between the work that you and I do, something that I found really helpful, and maybe that's a takeaway, for you now is I generally will model the positions, so
Mm,
the body shapes. So if I'm going to, suggest perhaps a child's pose or something where hips are higher than shoulders, or something like that, or even if someone is, experiencing like low back pain and I want to place them on their back on a mat, I sort of say to them, look, I'm going to model the position, and then you can let me know if that looks like it's going to be comfortable in your body. And if it doesn't
mm.
look like it's going to be comfortable, then, that's my job to figure out another way.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually a valid point in a sense more of whether they want to do that exercise or not.
Mm,
For me, I have to show them everything because I'm online. So I have to demonstrate quite a lot. But I think it's probably not until they're in the position and then they might say, this doesn't feel very good. But then I'm thinking, oh, what if they don't actually want to get in that position? Like that might be a barrier for some of these people. So,
yeah.
I think it's really interesting to see how everyone shares their knowledge and then it gets taken away and interpreted and then applied so differently to each different scenario. So I was really excited to hear from you about like how did you do this in like the group setting at the inpatient service? Like that's so different to what I've taught before.
Yeah. And I think
So
sometimes it's also, I'm really open with clients, and I let them know that like there's one of me and there's many of you, and I will do, I'll do my best. But this is the limitations of this is what I can offer.
hmm.
Um, and that's uncomfortable sometimes because you want to offer more.
Mm.
Um, that yeah, in a group, and I let my clients know like all the movement we do is in a group setting. Um, how do you feel about that? Does a group setting even feel comfortable?
Yeah.
Um,
I imagine some people might not even like that.
no, no. And so there's limitations there as well.
Mm.
But the space that we have is very intentional. There's no mirrors. There's, um, we've tried to sort of soften the lighting and make the space as welcoming and as all inclusive as we can. So
Mm.
yeah.
It's such a different approach to movement than a gym or a clinic, like an exercise clinic.
Yeah, and I don't know if people have picked up on it, but like my, exercise is in my job title, but I very rarely use it as a word.
I would love to get rid of exercise in our title. Like I feel like everyone's like, "Ooh, exercise." Like I'm coming to you because I don't want to go to the gym.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And because for a lot of my clients, yeah, it's exercise is a distressing word or an uncomfortable word. I call the space that I use for groups because it is a multi-purpose space. So there's, we have to put up tables and pack down tables and move chairs out and that sort of stuff
okay.
before we even get into the movement component. But I call it the movement space because to
Yeah,
call it a
movement space.
gym doesn't feel inviting.
No, it
Um,
feels like you're paying for your fee and not going for a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think,
Oh,
if I've got, yeah, if I can consolidate, I guess, what I do down to like a small sentence is, try and give a different perspective of movement.
yeah. That's so cool. I'm so impressed and excited about the work that you do within the space. It's so needed for like such a, it's really, really cool. Thank you so much for sharing about it all. I know there's going to be quite a few people listening to this who are like, that is so awesome. I'd love to get into that. Like, if someone is looking at moving into this sector or area, industry, whatever you want to call it, what would you recommend for them to do?
Oof. Um,
Good
I mean,
question.
I can really only, yeah, I don't know. I wasn't
Like,
expecting that question.
is upskilling just in like trauma-based therapy work, like trauma-informed work? Like, where would they start?
Yeah. It's interesting. I think probably because I've kind of grown into it
Yeah.
sort of organically. I don't think as I said earlier, like I knew that that's where I wanted to spend my time. Um, but I don't think I really thought about how I got to where I am now.
Mm,
Um, Understanding invisible illnesses is a huge first step. Looking at the person, not the diagnosis, is a huge thing. Not casting everyone with generalized anxiety disorder or OCD or, complex trauma or, borderline personality disorder or bipolar or all of the other conditions that we see, not tired, like not expecting the same thing. Just as we wouldn't expect the same thing from someone, people who have low back pain or,
mm,
Parkinson's or multiple sclerosis or any of those conditions that perhaps as EPs we're more familiar working with. Um, get to know the individual. And then I guess from a practical kind of service, how to get a job. Um,
I feel like that's a difficult question.
yeah, I think. I think I'm at a point now where I'm feeling more kind of senior and more comfortable in my day to day. And so, there's advocacy that we need to do in this space. The fact that EPs aren't on a mental health treatment plan. We're not on an eating disorder management plan. These
Mm,
are huge areas where EPs are really specialized in supporting, and we have the skills to support these people. And I want to see that happen.
so that's what you'll be doing now, advocating for the people who are trying to get jobs in this.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's advocating, talking with clients and getting them to advocate,
Yeah.
them to advocate for their NDIS supports to cover exercise physiology, which I know is like a whole nother difficult situation for a lot of clients, getting access to funding. But also then, internally, it's like I'm advocating, to my manager, on a weekly basis, like, here's, I could do this and I could do this and I could run this program. And, you know,
Mm.
um, it, yeah, I think it's definitely a growth space. And hopefully, having seen it grown, just in my experience, having seen it grow from, oh, there's only jobs in research to, okay, it's a viable allied health profession,
Mm.
into there were no placements at my university for mental health. And I've just hosted a student. Um,
That's exciting.
so, it's happening.
Amazing. Mm.
Um, so I think that that's really exciting. So yeah, if you're
Exactly.
interested in mental health, if you want to work in the space, keep going,
Let's keep chugging away.
keep chugging away. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that is so exciting. Thank you so much for sharing this, all the knowledge inside your head about, that sounds terrible, but thanks for sharing your story, and all the work that you
So
do.
there's so much more I want to say.
There is more. We can do some more. I would love to do some more. Like we can do some part twos later. We will invite you back, I think, for more. We'll talk a little bit more about what those topics might look like. But otherwise, we might leave it there for today. Thank you so much for your time. Are you on any like LinkedIn or social media or anything like that? If people do want to learn more about what you do, or is that and
Uh,
I is that not I know.
no, no. I'm not great with self-advocacy. I'm not great with Instagram, any of the social media platforms. I am on LinkedIn. So if people want to send a message, but in terms of kind of broadcasting what I do, I haven't yet entered into that. This is my
Maybe in
first
the future.
entering into that space.
This is your first thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that is, I feel so privileged that it's on my show. We'll stay tuned for more. There'll be plenty more of you. Don't you worry. But otherwise, thank you very much. And we'll talk again soon.
Yeah. Thank you.